Hello, hello. Alright, so it's day 2 of Dawn of the Hunt being available, and there's been some mixed reviews. Not really mixed, it's mostly been negative.
Some pretty things, yes?
The first thing that I was compelled to do was to make a video clearing up some of the, I wouldn't say misconceptions, I think they're dead on. It is brutal, and
Be wary.
it's a lot more difficult because a lot of the skills that were originally OP and people were breezing through the content without even being challenged. It's actually a level of difficulty where the power level doesn't creep up too high in the areas that you're in. And what that actually means is that the gameplay is more challenging. Some of the things that have been most heavily nerfed, like the Stormweaver Archmage, is still viable. I think it still feels pretty good. People might not enjoy it just because it's not as strong as it used to be, but it's probably also less boring and more of a challenge. Yesterday I was playing with a couple of friends and we made it through to this point. There were a few moments where we decided to solo, like when we did our ascension. We disbanded the party and decided to do that solo. That was a lot easier just because we didn't share the same honor bar, and it was much easier for people to individually clear areas and basically not body block each other, and less chance of getting hit by random AoEs. Anyway, also Act 1 end boss, Gino doesn't seem to have 3 times the health that it would normally have if you had, so what I'm thinking is that when you party up with 3 people, you would think the bosses have 3 times the amount of health pool. I think it's actually higher than that. It seemed like he had a ridiculously high amount of health, and so we just decided to disband the party and solo that, and that ended up being manageable. Same with the Act 2 boss, and
this mechanism, if powered with
yeah.
a small...
So there were definitely some challenges. I didn't really struggle with the end of Act 2 boss either. The fight went for a very long time, but I think at that point I might have still been using a wand that was like very bad. But the balance changes to Spark's main skills. It certainly has an effect. But I've decided to play it as a league starter. I kind of had a feeling I would, and I think when I saw the patch notes, I thought about trying one of the other classes, and I think I was definitely tempted to go a Huntress. Being a new class, I thought it was going to be pretty strong, although I remember what it was like when the first league started and I tried to play Monk throughout the beginning of the campaign, Act 1, and there was just a bit of difficulty with getting the build online. Like, even when I got Tempest Flurry, I should have probably gone Ice Strike. I think I would have found it a lot better, but even when I got Tempest Flurry, it was just a little bit underwhelming, and I didn't feel like the Monk was really that good until maybe Act 3 when I got Charge Staff, and then I was starting to enjoy things a little bit more. But I thought that the Huntress, being a bit of a gimmicky kind of character, like, it does have a unique playstyle. It's not as one-dimensional as, say, a spellcaster, where you're relying on spell damage or with 1 or 2 spells, or say a ranger, where you're just relying on kiting and staying at distance, staying out of damage, and giving damage from a distance, or you know, if you're doing lightning rod, lightning arrow, and bossing, you might stay close depending on how your support gem is set up. But for the most part, it's a pretty simple and straightforward playstyle. It doesn't really rely on these gimmicky things like the monk had, where you needed to use Killing Palm to generate power charges, and then you would do Falling Thunder if you wanted a big AoE, and then sometimes you would have a pretty inconsistent result with that if, like, maybe you were aiming. This bubble is terrible. Yeah, it was just not a great experience from memory. So I thought to myself, a mercenary taking advantage of the tactician ascendancy with him, and maybe I hadn't fully decided like the whole route, but I did see a viable 8 points there that I could maybe make a build out of, and so I, you know, cleared the tutorial area, just walked out of Clearfell, and thought to myself, like, I have no idea how to build a passive tree for a mercenary, because I haven't leveled one, haven't taken one to endgame, and I immediately just decided to re-roll my character and play something that I felt more comfortable with. And the intention was not to necessarily play a Stormweaver, but I actually wanted to just create a Stormweaver, a sorceress, and just to see the Spark skill gem and see if they had changed anything about the skill. I think there was some stuff in the patch notes about how they removed the projectiles from quality, and that was replaced with projectile speed. They also reduced the number of projectiles by roughly 50% at max level, which is like kind of a huge deal. Although with a lot of Stormweavers getting their tooltip DPS on Spark between 100k and 200k by the end game, even if there's a reduction in effectiveness by 50%, and I don't think it's going to be that extreme, because you could potentially adjust your passive tree in a different way, maybe. I don't know. I thought I'm gonna do something against the grain and see if I can make it work. And it's really just to see where GGG is at, because I don't think they've nerfed it completely to the ground. Like, it's definitely not going to be viable, and I actually think even with the changes, you're still going to be able to get some very good builds out of it. What I am concerned about, though, is really some of the more specific mechanics in the end game, where monsters can have more and more and more modifiers.
You will burn.
Also, the stuff with the new stun threshold is a little bit concerning. I think that's going to be very rippy, especially when you start running juiced maps. Oh, this place looks nice. Although I'm excited because of the new things available that will help with crafting, like fracturing orbs. It's just going to allow it so that, like, if you do get the right mod on that with a fracturing orb, you're really going to have unlimited attempts with chaos orbs and other crafting methods to really get that item to be good. Because on my solo self-found playthroughs, I had a Stormweaver at 96 and an Invoker at 94 on SSF, as well as three characters on Trade League above 90. The amount of times you'd be looking for an upgrade and you'd have, like, basically that one rare mod that comes up very not so often. And then the other mods are terrible. Maybe you got one other good one. You just need to like hit it with a Chaos Orb, and it's a 50-50 chance to hit the mod that you don't want, and one of the mods you don't want. One of the mods that wouldn't be great, but it also wouldn't brick it, and then like a 25% chance to completely brick the item, and it's basically vendor trash. And the amount of times that you fucking hit that mod on that first go, like it's just a magnetic Chaos Orb, is ridiculous. I think I've logged off a bunch of times just by like hitting those +5 level of all lightning spell skills like just straight away as soon as I fucking hit the Chaos Orb on the wand when it's got like 4 mods on it or 5 mods on it. It's absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, I think some of the things on the passive tree are a little bit different than what they were before. It does also bring down the scaling a little bit, but it's all very... Oh, that does damage? I thought that was him just waking up. We're gonna need some energy shield.
Wall of flame!
So I don't think I'll be playing hardcore this season, but I guess I haven't really glossed over one of the reasons why I think that it's a good thing that they've made the game more difficult, but it's really just because the game was trivially easy. Like, it was honestly, like, for somebody that knows what they're doing, they know what gear to be looking at, they know what mods they should be getting on their gear, they've done the bosses a few times. There's no challenge in the game how it was before. Oh wow, nice. I actually rolled into that fire. There was a little fire thing next to the pillar, and that, I think it kind of blocked me. So that's my 8th death in the campaign up until this point. I'm in Act 3. About 8 times. Try it. Try again. But certainly, for the most part, I'm liking the fact that it's challenging. The boss fights, I really feel like they're going in a direction that they wanted the game to be in the first place. I feel sorry for the click to move players, because it really is very hard to dodge, especially in the right direction, as well as click and attack and all of these things. It just... What on earth is going on here? Yeah, it would be very hard to dodge precisely, because a lot of the dodging has to be precise. You need to dodge in the right direction, and you also need to control the direction that you're dodging as well. I'm not doing the best job of it now. I'm also walking into his Oh wow. Okay, that's got a lot more AoE than I thought it had. Why is our spirit not working? Is that just a death thing? Alright, so I'm sure people probably aren't a fan of dying to campaign bosses all that much, but I think it's something I can live with while I'm making these mistakes. I think my damage is not great, but that's alright. I think with better gear we can get a decent enough build out of this. And there is a good chance I'll re-roll and play a new character. like if it just feels completely underwhelming across the board, then possibly. And I might look at adjusting my passive tree. Yeah, he's not too bad. He's not too bad in the first phase of the fight, but
Desert fire.
is it at least? Wait a second. Are we meant to use terrain? Possible. Okay, right. There might be a good reason for this. Yeah. I think we're supposed to use the terrain to our advantage, which I didn't realize would actually be so useful. Oh yeah, look, I just looked on YouTube this morning and I saw a bunch of, I clicked on Path of Exile 2 just to see what videos were related, and I actually fucking love it. The fact that all the big streamers, and honestly some of them are fucking big noobs, they might know more about the game, but they actually just kind of play bad. To see them having trouble with the game and having difficulty, that's a good thing. That means that I know the game's in a good place. It's not going to be this like this easy click fest where you can just like run around killing like everything immediately without really thinking. Like I like it. I think they might actually bring it back a little bit. They might find a middle ground. It would have been absolutely brutal if they did these changes, but they didn't give you 6 portals in maps in the beginning. Okay, the flame wall projectile damage is not actually scaling up as much as I thought it would be. But yeah, I think I'll just go with orb. So it'll be interesting to see if, I think within a week or something like that, we're probably going to have some pretty busted builds. And I don't mean busted as in the pre-Dawn of the Hunt busted that we saw, like with the stat stackers and the, you know, really OP Stormweavers that were just clearing everything with a click of the button and it wasn't even a challenge. I've lost my soul cord. But I think it's good. I don't think that content should be trivial. You shouldn't be able to just like zone out and just run around killing everything without any risk whatsoever. Although I'm a little bit concerned of what this translates to in the end game. Like, I think eventually with good gear, with a little bit more levels and stuff on the passive tree, breaches could be okay. They'll probably be a bit rippy, and I mean they always were. Like if you had bad map mods, they can sometimes cause rippy situations. But I just think Simulacrum is going to be incredibly difficult at the higher difficulties, and there's going to be people that need to push for it, because to get the most out of certain mechanics, you do want to have all Atlas points unlocked for that mechanic. So it's one thing to get a build to endgame, tier 15s, do all the pinnacle stuff, but if you've only unlocked the first level, like yeah, okay, you have beaten the pinnacle content, but there's a big difference between beating difficulty 0 now and beating the top tier difficulty. So I guess we'll get to endgame. We'll reassess once we say we get to level 90, and I think one of my characters is reasonably geared. I'm not going for any you know, rare uniques unless there are some specific ones that are quite good. As for my build, I did pick up this one in Act 1, and it's been pretty nice. It's helped with survivability. I was lucky enough to get this, which is only a level 8, so I got this in the hunting grounds in Act 1. Spell damage, plus level of all spell skills and cast speed, which is very nice. Haven't bothered to exalt it. And I got this wand from the Jura Caravan. It was just in the shop there with +2 level of all lightning spell skills towards the end of Act 2. Just before we did Dreadnought. And I got pretty lucky with a augment to get lightning damage, and then I regaled it to get cast speed. I don't want to spend any more currency on these items because I think you can get through the campaign with reasonably well selected stats on blue items, you know, 2 mods, and with rare items that you seem to pick up along the way. So my gear is pretty trash. I'm getting through the content. I'm not really too phased about being fully decked out on a league starter. If anything, I think I'm probably more in the mindset of saving currency, like especially exalted. I don't mind it maybe using a regal if the first 2 mods on an item are good, but I also kind of don't see the point. Like if you are clearing content and you're playing softcore where you can just respawn if you die, like what's the point? Okay, yeah, you might clear the content like 30 seconds faster and whatever, but it's also nice to get to endgame and have some currency left over, just because you might need to like craft something or buy something. Depends on what your flavor is. I'll probably buy stuff. There's items dropping all the time, and if I need, I think I'll be able to gear my sorceress relatively cheaply, because I think a lot of people are choosing not to play Stormweaver this league because of the heavy nerfs in all aspects, and they've really nuked it. Like, it's not been like, I think the biggest nerf was the amount of projectiles that they nerfed on the skill gem, but even nerfing things on the passive tree, making the cost a bigger problem to sort out with certain notables and synergies, like Eldritch Battery. I think what it does, doubles the mana cost apparently. That's a that's going to be a huge problem to try and solve. But I think that it's definitely doable, and I think it will still be. I think it would still be strong, like strong enough. And the reason I like a build like this is because it's easy to play. And when you're at that point of farming endgame content, oh nice, exalted orb. When you're at that point of farming endgame content, it is actually sometimes nice just to run through like 30-40 maps without having to think too much, without every fight being an intense life or death situation. And this is a little bit contrary to what I was saying before, where I want the game to be more difficult. But what I mean by that more so is like, I'm more of a fan of a build to be simple to play for personal reasons, not because I think it's objectively better or I think it would be more fun for everybody else. But for me personally, I have previously had RSI, which is repetitive strain injury, from gaming in the past. I used to play Counter-Strike, and I played too many hours. I spent too many hours sitting at my desk and practicing, or playing computer games in general, and if it wasn't that, just typing. So my left hand, it gets finger strain if I have to press too many buttons, which is like mainly moving around, changing direction, you know, from backwards to forwards, while simultaneously holding left or right to go in a diagonal direction, which is how most of the pathways are formulated here. You're pressing 2 buttons at the same time to move around, which, yeah, it's fine, I guess. But look, I have last league I was racked up like 1k hours, and there were times there where I was playing 8 hours a day, probably 10 hours a day, and not really taking any breaks unless I had to go away, visit family, or I was doing something else particularly that day. And I started getting the RSI back in my hand again, where the big joint in my finger, like where you like wreck yourself if you catch a basketball with your big finger the wrong way, that was starting to flare up. And then even the finger next to that, where the joint is, it started flaring up. So I wanted to play a league starter that's going to be basically a bit of a one button build. I know it probably won't exactly be a one button build, but I just wasn't sure how the Huntress would play. I got a couple of friends that are playing Huntress, so I kind of want to wait and see what it's like and what their thoughts are on it first. And I'm sure it's probably going to be pretty good, and it'll probably be pretty fun. It might even be a little bit OP. That's what I was thinking. But for a league start, I didn't really want to take a risk on something like that in case I didn't enjoy the gameplay. So the plan is to get to endgame with this character, and then at some stage did I get the fire res from the I'm sure I did, right? Yes, I did. Alright, I'm not sure if there's anything else in this area. I don't think there is. There's stuff in the middle that we haven't explored, but as for like things that don't come up anymore, the only permanent buff, or there's no you know, weapon skill points or passive tree points in that area. It's just the fire thing. And I think in this area we can corrupt an item, which I probably won't do because any item that I corrupt could potentially brick my character. At least for now. We don't even have 6 mods on our wand, so no point corrupting it. And I'm not going to spend exalts on it to corrupt it, because I have a feeling very soon we're going to pick up a +3. We'll probably pick up a +3 one, maybe even a +4.
I should call
That'll be unlikely. The +3 would be great.
I've ever seen.
So
With
with all the doom and gloom that there is around this game, I'll probably have to make another one of these videos when I get to endgame and see how I really feel. But I think it's great, and I think people probably just overall have a hard time adjusting to something being taken away from them. It always, I think, initially feels like a bad thing unless you look at it from a more objective and less personal point of view. If the game is more difficult and your character feels less powerful at the same stage in the game, that's probably more closely related to how the game was intended to be played and how the design that they're going for. And it feels like maybe some people want to go back and play the previous balanced version, but that's not really a thing. Like, that's not really how it works. Like, we are beta testing this game, and there's a lot of people out there with skill issues. So if you're thinking about playing Path of Exile and you're not a potato, and you like a game that will challenge you, I think this would be the right one. But if you just want to sit there and face tank damages while you kill shit, just to like sit on Discord and laugh around shit while you run through content, not paying attention to what's happening on your screen, go play some other shitty game. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it here, and I will probably just make another recap, another review later on, and we'll see how that one goes. I might actually completely change my mind to do a 180 when I get to endgame, but we'll see. I'm feeling confident, and I think it's gonna be manageable.